So my name's Iain, I'm a Professor of Pensions and Finance at Leeds University Business School, and I've done pensions since I was about 22 when I started my PhD. And Emmeline got in touch and said, I'd love you to be part of this thing that I'm doing with Nest. It's a member assembly. I went, oh, amazing, I'm going to get to talk about climate change. She went, no. She went, I want you to talk about what investing is in 20 minutes. So here we go. I expect lots of red cards. So, who's currently an investor in the room? Who owns their own house or has a house with a mortgage? Okay. Who has, or has in the past, had cash at the bank, in a building society, in a savings account or an ISA? There we go. Who's got money saved with a credit union? There we go. Who's got premium bonds? Okay. Almost everyone is an investor. They're just not always intentional about it. So most people think I've got cash at the bank, I'm saving. But actually you're investing, but it doesn't feel like that. And it doesn't feel like that because when people think about investing, they think about the stock market or bonds or all those other things that you would I read about on a daily basis in the Financial Times, and all of you will probably look at some point and go, look at all of those people in this city making all that money. Now, one of the things that we have in the UK in particular is people have too much money in cash and they have too much money in property. And outside of their pension, which most people aren't actually aware they have and what it's invested in, which is why I think this is such a good event to really engage members with their pension, is they hold too much cash and they're overexposed to property. Too much of your wealth is tied up in that. And that's not just people in the room, that's me as well. And I should know better and do better, but I'm lazy. I can't be bothered, it's too much work, right? But why do people hold too much cash? Well, they hold too much cash because of trust issues. When we think about investing, we think about the Wolf of Wall Street. We think about Wall Street. We think about the global financial crisis. We think about people getting these huge stellar bonuses, millions and millions of pounds. And we don't trust people like that. I don't. And some of them are very good friends of mine. Right? Then it's risk. Am I going to get my money back? Will I get my money back? When will I get my money back? Will my money have gone up? Will my money have gone down? And then actually a lot of us oversave for a rainy day. So I like to look at my bank balance and my savings account and go, well, if, I don't know, the car breaks down or something like that, I've got the money in the bank. Whereas when I put it somewhere else, like the stock market or in anything else, it doesn't quite sit right with me, right? And that's me, and I should definitely know better. So, how do you make money on cash? Because you do make money on cash, right? Particularly now interest rates have gone up. So basically, you make money on cash because the bank gives you something back. It gives you the interest on it. And that's how we make money on cash. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at what would happen to £100 over 1 year, over 2 years, and over 3 years. And there's a little fact in here that becomes really important. Okay, so let's introduce Generous Bank. If anybody knows a bank paying this rate of interest, we should talk afterwards. Okay, 9% interest on your savings. So, year one, we put our £100 in the bank at the start, and at the end of the year, the bank's going to give us £9 of interest. 9% rate of interest and £100, £9 of interest. Now, what we're going to do is we're not going to touch that money. We're not going to add in any more money. We're just going to leave it sitting in the bank. So what happens is we then hold it for another year, and the bank's going to give us another £9 of interest, 9% on £100. But there's this little wedge at the top that you can see, and this is where the bank is going to pay you interest on the money that they've already given you. So in year one, you get £9. That £9 is still in there. So the bank's going to give you this interest on interest. Then if we go to year three, we've still got our initial £100. We've not added any more money. So we've got an interest of £9 from year one, £9 from year two, that little bit of interest on top. And then in the end of year three, you're going to get your other £9 and then a little bit again over the top, the interest on the interest. Now, when you look at this as an example, it doesn't look like it adds very much, right? But this is what's called compounding, and it's always misattributed. But there's a sort of quote you can find online from Albert Einstein, and it says, compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. And the way in which people become rich, or where people become wealthy, is they're always making money on their money, right? And so over a very long time period, 25, 30 years, that compounding, interest on interest, becomes really substantial, okay? I have not had a red card yet. So that either means you've all given up already, or this is like the best presentation I've ever done in my life. So are we all comfortable with this? Excellent. Emmeline has stressed me beyond compare with this. This is the most nervous I've been in about 15 years. Right. So how do we start to think about risk? So let's think about a mortgage, something that we're all broadly... Oh,
We have a red card.
from, yes.
For the previous example, what is inflation rate?
Inflation
Rate.
rate. So that's, good question. So what would it, so,
You'll get £99 for each £100 you
so
put in the back.
what we're assuming there is either zero inflation, okay? That's your real return.
Zero inflation is impossible.
Right. But, so just for the stylized example, right, we're not thinking about inflation, it's just to understand that process of compounding. Now, what you're looking at in terms of current rate of inflation is about 3.5%. So even on 9%, you're still going to make, you're going to be above the rate of inflation and make real money. Okay? Is that okay? Yes.
That 9%, so you'd make £27 on that £100. So you'd have £127.
Plus that little bit extra.
What's the little bit? I don't understand. What's the little bit extra? Where do you get the little bit extra from?
Right. So I knew people weren't using the red cards properly. Right. Also, he's told me I'm not allowed to move, right? But I'm going to ignore him. Right. So year one,
Yes.
money goes in the bank. You hold it for a year, and the bank gives you £9. Right. Year two, you've actually got your 109 in the bank. The bank's going to pay you 9% on £109. So you're going to get another £9 plus that little bit extra, right? Then you go forward to year three, you've now got your same £100. You're going to get your 9% on what's in the bank account. So you've got your £100, 9, little blue bit,
118.
118 at the start of the year, plus that little bit.
The little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
That little bit depends on the interest rate.
Yep.
Okay, and that's set by the bank.
That's set by the bank.
Or by the bank.
So yeah, we won't get into the Bank of England, I'm being recorded. So basically the bank's going to give you 9%. Don't worry about inflation, but that's a real concern at another point in time. And don't worry about the Bank of England because it doesn't make you happy. Now, Year one, £100 goes in, 9%, you get £9. Year two, you've got your £100 and your 9. You then get your £9 and that little bit extra, which is your interest on your £9 that's carried forward. Then we go here, £100 from the start. You've then got 2 years, £9, £9, the little bit, and then the bank gives you that little bit extra again. So you're always getting interest on what's in the account. Is that okay for everybody? Excellent. I'm okay, I'm halfway through. Right. Try to do this in like 20 minutes is not easy. Right, so how can we start to think about risk? So if we think about a mortgage, what's the process for a mortgage? Well, you save up for a deposit. You then go to a bank or a building society and say, this is the house I want, this is the deposit, will you give me a mortgage? And they say, yes, because they're always saying yes, they're so friendly. And you buy your home. And then, basically, you start to pay back your mortgage. You're paying back interest and you're paying back capital, okay? So the bank is doing the opposite of the transaction you've just seen. So they've given you cash, so they're charging you money on the cash that they have given you to buy your house. And they do that over 25, 30 years. What do we think the risk in all of this is? If you're the bank, what's the risk? And this is where it becomes interesting. Wait. This is for the person who can answer the question. What? Oh, higher level of engagement now, I like it. So, if you're the bank, what is the risk here? Right. Hands up. Oh. Joseph. Right, so what's the problem that causes for the bank?
You won't get any money back, no interest.
Ooh, the money fell down there because that was a half answer. It's close.
Yeah,
Scott.
You default on your mortgage and the interest rates rise ahead of what the bank's loaning the money out to the mortgage.
Close.
I'd say negligible risk because they take your house as security, so they get their money back regardless.
This is. We've got like a whole answer between 3 people, and that's £20, and that doesn't divide by 3. Right. This is actually my money, by the way. Nest haven't subbed me for this. Right. So, pass that way to Anthony. Pass that way to Joseph.
I feel like I should be intervening at this point.
And pass that way to Scott. Right. So, this is how we think about risk. So, at a very basic level, the risk the bank faces is they're not going to get their money back. Right? Now, what we got was 3 different bits of the answer. And the reason Anthony got the most money, and I'm having to read his name upside down, so I do think it is Anthony. Yeah, it is, yeah. Is Anthony got the bit that's really crucial to what comes next. The money's secured on the property. So if you default on your mortgage, the bank takes your house. So what that means is the bank doesn't carry a huge amount of risk. Now, Joseph and Scott sort of picked up on the other 2 bits, which is, why would that happen? Well, you probably have lost your job and you're not able to pay back. And then the consequence, as Scott said, is you default, right? So what you're looking at is the other bit of risk is what just happened. I only thought I was about to give away 20 quid. I've just given away 40. 2 half answers and a full answer. Right. So finance is expensive. But you can see what's happening, or you can see there's a risk and there's a return. So the bank thinks, I'm going to lend to Iain over a long period of time. Ian's got a mortgage on a house, he's going to pay me all this interest on that mortgage, that's how I make money, and if Ian doesn't default, Ian gets the house he wants. Okay? Perfect. Right, so this is the next stage of that, okay? So they're called bonds or fixed income, right? And what we're really talking about is debt. But this isn't where you're taking on debt, this is where you're lending to somebody else. Now, the reason it's called a bond is because it actually goes back to about 1590, and it used to be called a bind, and it's a commitment, okay? And it's called fixed income because it works like a mortgage. There's a stream of interest payments that are made, and then there's a capital repayment. You get your money back that you loaned, okay? Now, it's not just people who want to borrow, it's governments and it's companies. So governments might want to build a road, a company might want to build some new machines. So we can look at a government and say, how likely are they to pay us back? Okay? And if we think they're really highly likely to pay us back, we don't charge them very much interest. If we're really unsure about that government, then we'll charge them more interest on it because we're not quite sure we're going to get our money back. And that also works the same as a company. We can say, well, how likely is that company to pay us back? And we can think about what's the rate of interest. But also, just like a mortgage, when it comes to a company, we can secure the investment on a property. So the factory of the company might be pledged in the same way the bank will take your house if you don't pay back. If the company doesn't pay back, then we'll take the factory.
That's a good question. So what you just said there,
Can we save the questions
No
till
worries.
later on? Is that okay?
No worries.
Thank
Right.
you. Just because
Okay.
I want to make sure we get through the presentation.
Yep, no problem. So that's how bonds and fixed income work, okay? It's essentially where you're lending money to somebody else, so notionally you become like a bank. Now, the other one that we want to cover is shares. Now, I'm assuming we've all seen this, or most of us have seen this, Dragon's Den. Somebody pitches up and says, I've got a wonderful business idea. I would like you to invest in me. And the Dragon's Den, they all sit and they go, I'm in, I'm out. And if they're in, they'll say, I will give you £100,000 for 75% of your business. Now, what that really means is because companies just don't want to borrow because too much debt at an individual level is bad, too much debt at a company level is bad, companies issue shares. And they're called shares because you get a part of the business. It's not secured on any assets or anything like that. But what you're really getting is this promise of some sort of return based upon the future performance of the business. So if I think, wow, that's a stellar idea, and I put money into it, then what I'm doing is I'm buying what I expect is future performance of that underlying business, okay? Now, because there's no underlying asset, then there's a little bit more risk. So in the bond, we said, well, if it fails, I'm going to take that factory off you and I'm going to sell it to somebody else to get my money back. Here, that doesn't happen. If it fails, you don't get your money back. So as a result, what you say is, well, I want more from this transaction, from this interaction, than where I lend to the company. And that's why you see on Dragon's Den, they say, I'll give you £75,000 for 45% of your business. They want to take a big bit of that business because if it's successful, then they'll make more money. Okay? Now, as I said, it's called a share, so you get a return on the future of that business. And there's two different ways you can make money. So you might get a dividend, which is where I give a cash payment to my shareholders as the company. Or the company becomes really valuable and somebody else wants to buy it from me. So actually, when I sell them that share, I might have bought it for £1 and I'll sell it for 10. So that's the two ways in which you make money off investing in shares. Okay? So across all of this, how do we manage risk? Well, banks lend to lots of people. So they lend to everybody. And they look at how likely they are to pay back and do all these kind of calculations. And some people don't pay back, but they make money because they've lent to lots of different people, most of whom will pay back. if we want to think about government bonds or company bonds, well, I don't just invest in the UK government, I could get bonds across all countries in the world if I so wished. We can also buy lots of small different bits of companies. So rather than having all our money in one company, we could invest in the whole stock market. So I've got a little bit in lots of companies, which means if one of those companies fails, it's okay because I've still got lots of other money invested in all those other companies. And actually you can do it. So this is what happens if you to invest in all companies in the world. So this is a reasonable way of looking at it. And again, for the cameraman, he's not going to like this, but I don't care. We're too late, we're doing it now. If you put your money in basically all companies in the world in about 1980, and you'd left it there to 2025, it would have gone up by 4,275%. Now that's not to say it doesn't go down, because it clearly does. Here we have the dot-com crash, here we have the global financial crisis, here we have COVID. So it does go up and down, it varies. I'm going to get to the end, don't worry. But the point is, over a very long period of time, all of that smooths out and you can make significant returns. And if you think about what happens with cash versus that, that's a very different impact on what investing can do for you. And the trick is this Nobel Prize in economics. And I promise you this is a Nobel Prize. It's called Markowitz portfolio theory. It's in 1954 in the Journal of Finance. And it is the mathematics of do not put all your eggs in one basket. If you don't put all your eggs in one basket, in terms of investing, you're going to get a much better outcome over the longer term. And that's me for now.
Thank you very much.